December the 1st, 2025. Welcome. There we go. I just turned the volume up a little tiny bit. Hopefully that works better tonight. We'll find out. Should people sue nuclear power plants? Nuclear power plants are constantly hemorrhaging radiation from the fuel pools after the first year. So they'll take fuel out of the reactor after 1 year, about 1/3 of the reactor, they're going to put it in a fuel pool. That's splitting atoms into your local environment, which eventually covers the whole planet. So it's worth watching. We're going to kick off, and I'm almost ready, just making a cup of tea, a last minute thing, and we're going to play Nuclear Belgium. I put a link in the description for you. I'll be right back.
100 hands, reverse the law. Phase 1 set, now put on pause. They claimed the grid could not endure and fed the myth of power pure. The fuel was buried, not the plan. It only waits for votes to stand. From all they stacked the vessels deep. Tea hands ran long, though did not sleep. No chant was sung, no grave was raised. Just softer lights in western bays. A farmer passed through fields unclaimed. No one asked what was his name. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots cast, the elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. They wrote it down in 23, then turned the page before the plea. The pause they pitched became a door, a lease renewed without a floor. The mask was spun in policy, but no one asked the river's fee. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots cast, the elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. Now tell the child in Malta Day what steams beneath the concrete base. Dessel's drums into me lie, and NATO carries what we weigh. The wind from Flanders bends its back. The scaffold stands, but none look back. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots casted, elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast.
All right, here we go. So it's hard to comprehend, I think. I would imagine, I'm pretty sure, for people to appreciate the enormity of this picture. This was March the 15th, day 5. Hang on a second. Just had to turn up the light that was shining at the Geiger counter. I didn't turn it up enough, but looks of it. Doesn't matter. Here we go. My apologies. So officially this never happened. Officially, at the top of these buildings, it looks like this, according to the media. And they put these contraptions over, these stumps, and then they pretended that they were in the building. There was no bloggers outside of nuclear bloggers that are even going to consider the significance of that. There's nobody talking about it worldwide. And it's hard to comprehend how a building blows up, but this model of, there's a lot of studies quantifying the fallout. This is based on 30 days, basically, 34, 35 days, or 26, 27 days, whatever. So you have an explosion, the particles replicate each other every second. It suffocates your whole planet. And so the radioactive fallout attacks all the species and it breaks the food chain. And now we're seeing almost 15 years later, whales that should be 88,000 pounds are showing up maybe, I put 50,000 pounds there. Clearly that's not 50,000 pounds. It's actually around 5,000 pounds. Now maybe 50,000, but it's not 50,000, it's at best around 5,000. The brise whale is the same thing, where it's missing 40 or 50,000 pounds. These are humpback whales. These are absurdly emaciated. Not as bad as the top two, by no means, but that's a gray whale up there, a brise whale, and 2 humpback whales. All of these are from this year. These are severe emaciations. This meant that they traveled 20,000 miles and didn't find any food. Now, when you see it showing up in all the species, which is what we've been telling you is going to happen for 15 years now, here we are. We're at that moment. It's okay. It's still not too late to fight back against this industry. You can't change Fukushima, but you can change the industry forever. You can hold them accountable. And so people should be suing nuclear power plants because the fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation directly into the environment. So if you live within, say, 20 miles of a nuclear power plant, 20 kilometers, 20 miles, typically in North America, you've got sirens within 10 miles of a nuclear power plant. The problem is the radioactive fallout expands and replicates itself every second. It doubles. The emissions from an explosion are particles from the fuel. The fuel is splitting atoms, boil water for 1 million homes and businesses. When you put it in a fuel pool, still splitting atoms for 1 million homes and businesses. Hang on. Persistent dry throat there a bit. So fuel pool is one of the most dangerous creatures. Well, the most dangerous creature on the planet, because there's no humans or any species that have an autoimmune trigger that can defend against the radioactive fallout from the fuel pools. And they're pretending they're in the fuel pool 150 feet above the stump of reactor 4. And the fuel pools are full of reactor core splitting atoms. And so if you live in proximity within a 100-mile radius of a nuclear power plant, you're being severely poisoned, and particularly your children, which are dependent upon their thyroid glands producing proper hormones and stem cells. Instead, now they're producing anthropogenic man-made hormones and anthropogenic man-made stem cells. Your body's not designed to function or to develop on those types of, these are poisons. So each isotope, so let's say an atom. So think of an atom, you can put 200 million on the head of a needle. It's absurdly tiny, right? You can't see it. You take one of those, you put it in a child or an adult or a mammal or an animal or a species, and that little insignificant speck normally is pulsing energy almost at the speed of light. And what happens is it's able to destroy chromosomes, DNA, and cells. And the body has to respond to that. It treats it as a foreign object and attacks it and tries to build a sarcophagus around it. A year, 10, 20 years down the road, it manifests in the form of a tumor. But during that period of time, it's pulsing energy at the speed of light every second. So your body attacks the source, but it also has to attack the damage that's created every second. It can't keep up with it. And you're accumulating it. It's staying in your bodies, and birds, mammals, and animals, and puppies, and your loved ones, and everybody on the planet, every species. And so there's nothing on the planet with an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. It's a foreign object. We call it man-made because it's man-made. It's not from the solar system. The sun doesn't create it. So when you're within proximity 100 miles of a nuclear power plant, that fuel pool, every year they're putting more fuel into it, every single year. And so every year you're producing more radioactive fallout from that fuel pool. And okay, so a reactor will power 1 million homes and businesses. That's pretty impressive, right? It does it by splitting atoms. So how many atoms do you have to split to boil water so that 1 million people can get a cup of tea? Well, it's absurd. It's an absurd amount of atoms. And we don't have none of them is supposed to ever leave the site. That was the original charter agreement for a nuclear business corporation. And they said, no, nothing. We're going to have Geiger counters everywhere. Everybody's going to be checked to make sure nothing gets off site, because they knew back then that this was the animosity equivalent of a biological weapon. But it turns out it's actually worse because it never goes away. It hangs there. It's a forever. So it's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison per atom. This is absurd stuff we're talking about now. But it's worse than that. It's 1 trillion times worse when it's in your body, because your body is under siege from this stupid little atom. So we have government, for instance, can regulate over 3,000 chemicals in your food and your environment, and they do. But they're not allowed to regulate nuclear. Nuclear is something different. Only the nuclear regulatory authority, regulation authorities, in each country has the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. Your Congress, your parliaments, your senates don't have that authority, which is absurd. They have the authority to ban 3,000 chemicals and regulate them, they do, but they're not allowed to regulate the nuclear industry. If it was illegal to poison you with radiation, you would have to immediately shut down every nuclear plant on the planet, and you would have to come up with solutions for all the fuel. So they take the fuel out of the reactor core, maybe say 1/3. So it's enough atoms to boil water for, say, 300,000 people every minute. Power their TVs, their fridges, their stoves, or whatever. So that's a lot of atoms. When you take it out of the reactor, which is considered a containment, but even though it's not really a true containment, because all the pipes are making tritiated water from the bombardment through the pipe. So any kind of moisture in the air becomes tritiated. This is a nasty isotope created externally from gamma shines, neutron bombardment, beta ray alphas, and they can radiate rainwater that's hitting the pipes or close to the structure. That becomes what's known as tritiated. Tritiated water is also known to be what they call organically bound. So it can part of your cells, for instance. Well, that's a big problem when you're developing, like a child develops for 20, 25 years. So their whole lifespan, on top of that, is going to be significantly impacted by the fact that their immune system was fighting these entities that is foreign to them. So they were producing an abnormal amount of white blood cells to attack the foreign invader, which was anthropogenic man-made radiation fallout. So each year, you're going to take a third of the reactor core and put it in the fuel. So after 3 years, you have a whole reactor core now in the fuel pool that normally would power 1 million homes and businesses by splitting atoms. But it's still splitting those atoms. It's just not powering homes anymore. And the reason they don't keep the fuel in the reactors become very brittle. So does the reactor, by the way. It becomes what's known as a Wigner effect, embrittlement. So it's a very dangerous process because they're very high pressure containments. When you take it out and put it in the fuel pool, it's no longer contained. You're still splitting those atoms. They're going to go up to tall, skinny stacks. They're going to go up to tall, skinny stacks. Hippie Don's saying he can't get on YouTube. He sent me some videos recently of geese that were flying, and broke my heart because it's been 8, 9, 10 years since I've seen it. A flock of geese. It was amazing, with good audio, really good audio. This is what we're fighting for. I lost my track that time. So, if you're within 100 miles of a nuclear power plant, you've been poisoned for sure because of the fuel pools. And every year they're adding more fuel. So the longer you were there, the more poison, anthropogenic man-made radiation got into your body. Now, it's not illegal to poison you with radiation, but you can still beat them in court because they lied about the releases on their business charters. They said nothing gets off site. So and they lie, they say it's like a banana, it's like a potato chip, it's like walking in the sunshine. Hippie says he can't get on YouTube at all, it's blank. I hear a lot of people saying they can't watch the program. Again, I just lost my track again, sorry about that, Hippie. So you can't contain the radiation from the fuel pools. It goes up to small, skinny stacks. Now, and that'll come evident when I start here in a minute. Okay. So Fukushima really did happen. It actually doesn't look like that. It looks like that over there. And so the media is not pretending they're on top of the building and the fuel pool's 150 feet above it because it's like a banana or a potato chip or walking in the sunshine or climbing a mountain or sleeping next to somebody or any of these lies. They've been spoon and hand feeding everybody for 80 years. It's the same narrative now for 80 years. The food was banned in Fukushima prefecture because of a nuclear plant broke down. So they banned the food in half the country. There was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. And there's many illnesses and diseases, not just cancer. The buildings are actually gone. There's no maybes about it. So what they said was, originally, this was April the 6th, 2011. What they said was that they got the leaks in the reactor buildings plugged in 25 days. Let me show you the original picture. I'm going to have to open up that tea, I guess. Hopefully it'll cut the dust out of my throat. Yep. Okay, what's going on with me? Apologize here. Anyway, let's keep going here. So I'm going to show you the original reactor 3 and 4 buildings when this headline came out. It's crazy that this industry can be capable of exterminating all the species. That on its own is madness, right? So it shouldn't be on your planet, theoretically speaking. Well, not theoretically speaking, but being honest means, like if you were to have a debate about this and they were going to introduce nuclear and you knew about these attributes. So imagine the corruption that's been going on in the nuclear industry for its entire legacy and multiply that by 1 billion. You start to come close to the reality. So they say they plugged these buildings, fixed the holes in them with liquid glass. And they say, what's that? It's magic. It's a mixture of sawdust, newspaper, and concrete. So they use sawdust, newspaper, and concrete and plug the leak. So everything's good. Don't worry though, it's like a banana anyway. Like, don't feel bad if, people that come here regularly, don't feel bad if you can't keep up with what I'm doing here. For God, I don't expect people to be able to keep up regularly with me, right? I'm here to tell the story, to make sure there's a live stream. The idea of that is so the world knows this is still an issue. And hopefully we can get their attention long enough for them to wake up and appreciate how much trouble we're in and the fact that we got to deal with this. It's not going away. The emaciated whales will eventually will all be dead, and there'll be no more whales to die. It's somewhere in the next couple of years, by the way. It's a very morbid story, unfortunately. I didn't make it that way. That's the way it is. I can't help it, all the whales are dying, and that sounds morbid. But when people are not thinking about it or don't appreciate that it's happening or can't comprehend the enormity of it, I hope to bring some context to that. And I'm doing the best I can. If everybody does the best he can, we'll win this battle eventually. Early on Wednesday, officials at the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan, announced the radiation-contaminated water was no longer leaking out of the damaged reactors. Let's have a look at them originally. That's what they looked like. Nothing was getting out of there. They fixed it with sawdust, a mixture of sawdust, newspaper, and concrete, and they fixed it. And then later that year, they stripped all that old stuff off it, and this is what's left of a 19-story buildings, a 190-foot building. And so now I want you to think about another story at that time about those two buildings. There's 4 of them, right? But just think about these two. When you look at these, obviously, you're not going to be able to patch them up, right? This is France 24, this is the French government. Cooling Fukushima possible after connection to the grid. All 6 of the Fukushima reactors were reconnected to the national grid on Tuesday. So this was the 22nd of March. So this is day 11. So on day 11, the French government came out and said the reactors were all reconnected to the grid. These reactors were reconnected to the grid. So look, if the industry is willing to do stuff like that, and all the media goes along with it, all the universities went along with it, never challenged them, then you got to ask yourself what else is going on that you should be considering, or even, dare I say it, worried about. One of the big problems with nuclear power plants, they're typically surrounded by farms, as far as you can see. That's the norm. Now, they know everything there is to know about radioactive fallout. So comparison with X-rays and CAT scans, inhaling the particles increases the radiation exposure by a factor of 1 trillion. So when they say it's like an X-ray or a CAT scan, that's actually meaningless. That's contempt. That's their demonstration of contempt for you. Children with 11 atoms a kilogram. So a BQ is a pulse of energy from an atom, from an isotope. And so it's pulsing at the speed of light in every direction like an explosion. So children with over 11 atoms, and how do you perceive 11 atoms when you can put 200 million on the head of a needle and you can't see it? So when you can put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it, and 11 of them will cause you heart problems. What does that tell you about the releases from the fuel pools? Because the fuel pools are splitting atoms like they would if they were boiling water for millions of homes and businesses. They're still being released into the environment. But so you don't need a big particle, a big piece of fuel to get sick. You don't need. This is something you can't perceive. You can't see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it or touch it or pick it up or perceive it. Top radiation expert, 50 atoms. So a becquerel is the pulse of energy from an atom. So you need an atom to make a becquerel. So 50 atoms per kilogram, 2.2 pounds, in humans lead to irreversible lesions in their vital organs. So irreversible lesions in your vital organs from 50 of these atoms sequestered in your muscles, your organs, or your bones. 50. Hello, everybody. So this is why you should be suing a nuclear power plant if you're within 100 miles of their site, because their fuel pools, if they're more than 1 year old, they have fuel pools that are releasing radiation directly into your environment, and they are trying to harm you. They don't care about you. And they look forward to harming you, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram of cesium-137. You can't just have cesium-137. Investigating chairman, one Fukushima may destroy the whole country. Collapse of a whole country is possible. Collapse of a whole country from your power plant breaking down. So what I'm going to show you is all the evidence that they know the difference, that they know it's poison, that they know it's very harmful, that they know the repercussions are forever, that they're aware of the toxicity of it, and they chose to hide it from you, and that you are being poisoned no matter where you are. But if you're within 100 miles of a nuclear power plant, you are being brutally poisoned, and it won't manifest for decades in most of you. But the longer you're there, the more you're accumulating, so you're passing it on to your children. Cesium-137 immediately damages the heart muscles. It's not slow acting. So cesium, of course, is just one of the biggest byproduct of the irradiated fuel rod is the curium isotopes. And they need lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium does. So it's kind of like the preamble. And now 35.8% of Fukushima children have thyroid tumors that are 2 centimeters. The the child's thyroid is about 2 by 2 centimeters. An adult is 5 by 3 centimeters. Claims cancer increases after 10 sieverts or radiation dose, so Japan is okay. 3 sieverts is considered a lethal dose to a human, not 10. And so these are, it's not illegal to poison you, it's not illegal to lie. And 13,646 out of 38,200 children with thyroid tumors, which means they're producing radioactive hormones for the rest of their developing and entire life, that's not going to turn out good. And if they're doing that, then they're producing the same amount in stem cells. So the radioactive stem cells, radioactive hormones. It used to be 1 to 2 per million, not 358,000 out of a million. That's the first year. 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes. This is the first year also. Head of the Tokyo area medical clinic were expecting diabetes in children from the Fukushima radiation. And one of the communities, they put up 3,000 fake Geiger counters to trick people into keeping their children in the nuclear wasteland with the help of UN. You're the enemy of humanity, no matter what you look at with the UN. If you look a little deeper, you realize this is your enemy. 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. United Nations says ain't Fukushima. 6 in 10 children with diabetes. United Nations says it ain't Fukushima children. It ain't Fukushima fallout. There were 7 people died on a single street, shopping street, in just the first year. Have you got a city in your community or your country where 7 people dropped dead in 1 year? 358,000 out of a million children with thyroid tumors within 1 year of a nuclear breakdown, your power plant breaking down, because your power plant broke down, when it used to be 1 to 2 per million. United Nations, no, got nothing to do with Fukushima. You're dealing with pure evil. Japanese now let me explain to you that they know the difference. They know what's going on. They can't deny that. If you go out and listen to the scum out there on YouTube and that, they'll tell you, oh, very little is known about man-made radiation effects upon human. All the studies they have, they say, are based upon a single exposure to a healthy 25-year-old. Don't believe that stuff, for goodness sakes. And you'll hear that at MIT, I believe it was. Yeah, MIT. They've been promoting nuclear for almost 100 years now. They've studied everything. They studied all 8 million species. They studied every type of tree, every type of plant, every type of insect, every type of bacteria or fungus, or every human experiment they can dream up, they got funding for. And there's a lot of them, and they get a lot of money. So look, when you're looking at these studies coming up a little bit, think about the blue up there, that light blue, is the people that worked on that study. They paid mortgages, they paid for their kids' college tuitions, or for their sports activities, or their musical lessons, or their vacations, and their house payments, their mortgage payments, their heat and lights, by doing these studies. So, like, there's so much denial that they don't understand, or they don't know what they're doing. So then, they can't contain the radiation from a nuclear plant. It's all going out the fuel pool after the first year. It's released directly into the environment. And if you can see radiation, it will look a lot worse than this right there. And every nuclear power plant, except for a couple, are surrounded, as far as you can see, with farms. And so they know everything about radiation. They know it's very going to be sucked up in the food. And when you eat it, you'll get sick from it. They know that. A journalist died of acute thyroid leukemia, was living 30 kilometers zone to support Fukushima. So when you look at these studies, will be flashing through. These are also for Springer Wally type studies. Mind you, they have 20,000 journals. They take your studies from your universities and you put it behind a paywall. You paid for the studies. 4.3 million a year in North America, hid behind paywalls, paid by your taxes. Long-term simulation of cesium dispersion from the Fukushima accident in the world ocean. Why are you doing a study like that for? You can't see the tall, skinny stacks in the background with the red stripes? That's the fuel pools. The big one and the middle one in the background is the common spent fuel pool. The other two are the fuel pools from the reactor buildings. So they're pumping the radiation from the fuel pools up that, and they're surrounded by farms. That's the best way to keep the numbers down and make you sick in your supermarkets. But it's much worse than that. Very high concentrations of hot particles in the Pacific Northwest during April, May include plutonium and americium. But there's a lot of isotopes identified and quantified. Radiation levels to the U.S. West Coast spiked. So this is not an opinion, it's not a conjecture, it's not a model, it's not a forecast, it's a spike of 1 million times normal. This is the French government. If it can reach you from the other side of the planet, then what do you think the local nuclear plant is doing to your loved ones and your friends and your families and your communities and your only planet? Cesium-137 levels increased 1 million and 10 million times after Fukushima. Per cubic meter of air. Is my audio loud enough tonight? Somebody was complaining. There is going to be a bit of static because I have a lot of equipment in the background. But there is static in the background. If you got headphones on, you'll hear it. It's not static. You're listening to the equipment in the background, right? The studio is a pretty big operation. There's not a person out there that wouldn't be shocked if they could see my studio. I can tell you that much right now. It's a formidable studio. It's the real deal. It's not a... It's a very well thought out... It's a weapon. It's a weapon for the nuclear industry that we built lovingly over a very long period of time. So cesium-137 levels increased 1 million to 10 million times per cubic meter of air. And cesium-137 pulses energy 600 feet. So if you're within 100 miles of it, you're being bombarded. Not just with tritium rainfall. Everything is... all your water now is tritiated because you release so much radiation into the environment for 80 years. But it's especially frightening if you're within 100 miles of a disease factory known as a nuclear power plant. So Fukushima model, a spike of 1 million to 10 million atoms based on TEPCO's numbers. This is the French government's input. This is 20 days right here of radioactive fallout. And 1 million to 10 million. So you covered the whole planet. And the numbers that are incredible. This stuff is not going away. And everything you've released for 80 years is still out there, poisoning every species on the planet. 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in your vital organs. So there's no way you're not getting that. There's no way. There's no way everybody on the planet hasn't been infested. Top radiation experts, 50 atoms a kilogram in humans lead to irreversible lesions in the vital organs. Now, they know everything about radiation. Like, they've studied it on the scale that most of us can't even begin to wrap our minds around it. And look at all the people on these studies. They know everything about it. They know there's not a single species on the entire planet that has an autoimmune trigger can defend against it. And they can't contain the hemorrhaging from the fuel pools. Those skinny stacks are hemorrhaging it. And they're always alongside of the major drinking water, which is going to feed all your farms and your local communities the drinking water for getting in your hot tub. So the water you're putting in your hot tub in these places is incredibly radioactive. It's just cruel what they're doing. It's just, It's the opposite of what you would do if you were a steward of our planet. You would never allow nuclear to exist. Nuclear is a perpetual plague. It's a perpetual plague. Feds to conduct aerial radiation surveys near Seattle to get baseline readings, and then he decided to hide the results for national security. In other words, they found so much to scare the crap out of them. Neural protective effects of human umbilical cords. So they're getting their hands on umbilical cords to study the effects with radiation. This industry has zero, like they look at everybody as guinea pigs, everybody. These are predators, and they're the worst type. They're the cowards of the predators. They're not like a lion or a jackal or a hyena or whatever. They're cowards. They hide away and they destroy your life by allowing you to be poisoned and poisoning you on purpose. Like the food grown around nuclear power plants is meant to poison certain cities. They'll coordinate 10, 20, 30 nuclear power plants and surrounding farms. And it's hard to comprehend how many farms we're talking about that are and they're always very active farms. And they'll load all of that food directed to one city, to all the big outlets. That's why you want to support your local farmers. Make sure they're not using GMO. Make sure they're not using chemicals, because lots of them are. Elderly woman hangs herself over Fukushima. They deny there's any adverse side effects, but yet they have millions and millions and millions and millions of these studies showing they know that it's deadly to every species on the planet. And when you look at the people, like all these people doing the studies, right, that are participating in the studies, and you're talking about 4.5 million studies a year. So what's going on? The system knows everybody and everything is poisoned. The first thing it does after a nuclear accident is it studies newborns for the next years, and they're looking for autism and Down syndrome. That's their first. They'll go to the funding centers and they'll get the money to go out and study that for sure. And then, if there's more males than females, that quantifies the radioactive fallout. Nuclear plant workers develop cancer despite radiation exposures below the legal limits, as little as 5,000 microsieverts, 5 millisieverts. Of course, like the recorded dose and the actual doses are completely different. The industry just... It hates us. It hates all the species. It hates the trees. It hates bacteria. It hates fungus. It hates the biota. It hates everything about this planet. Microbeam radiation therapy. Like, there is no such thing as radiation therapy. It's radiation genocide is what it really is. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms as far as you can see? Gas plants don't have that attribute. Oil plants don't have it. Coal plants don't have that attribute. Nuclear plants do. You can't have a nuclear plant without prime farmland. They know everything about radiation. They've done so many studies. I have so many, it's madness to suggest that they're not aware. This was 3 Mile Island. This was the strangest nuclear accident because it was one of the first public nuclear accident. And people actually went to 3 Mile Island instead of running away. They went there to see what a nuclear meltdown looked like. They wanted to see the inferno burning it. They were wearing T-shirts after I survived 3 Mile Island, but did they really? Because the effects sometimes are latent, right? Infant deaths also up in British Columbia. So if you could be poisoned from Fukushima to British Columbia, Canada, and you lose your child, what do you think is happening within 100 kilometers of a disease factory? What do you think happens when you eat that food? What do you think is happening when you're breathing that air all the time? don't know if you like me when I go for a walk, I have to clean my hands, my feet like a dog. I always clean it like a dog does or a cat does. Feasibility of it, well, that's what animals in the animal kingdom does, right? So they're ingesting all this radiation. So this is even more insidious. It's attacking all your species. This is even crazier. They're growing GMO in a nuclear wasteland. So you're getting no nutrients and you're being poisoned. You know, if you like a corn on the cob, GMO corn on the cob, you actually get more iron, carbon, more magnesium, more potassium, etc., licking a stamp than you do from eating the GMO corn on the cob. You have to eat 425 corn on the cob, GMO corn on the cob, to get the same amount of potassium, calcium, magnesium, etc., as you would from a single organic corn on the cob. And on top of that, we got nuclear fallout. The industry hates our guts, and it has enormous influence, enormous power. The censorship on me is just absurd. Large increases in brain tumors and cancers near nuclear plants. Everyone died. Just I'm alive. It's killing me, said 18-year-old. The government keeps telling them that United Nations, the ICRP, says it's safe. The International Committee on Radiation Protection. It has the same committee members as the IRPA, the IPRC, UNSCLEAR, the International Atomic Energy Agency. It's the same committee members. They're all UN. They have no sovereignty over any country. They're your number one enemy. Influences of radiation response to male germline stem cells. Look at all the people in the studies. Remember, they're producing 4.5 million of them a year. They know everything about radiation. They know every awful thing about it. And they're out there on TV telling you it's like a banana or potato chips or walking in the sunshine. And it's not illegal to be a monster for the nuclear industry. It's not illegal. It pays very well. 90% higher incident of childhood leukemia around nuclear plants. They know everything about radiation, anthropogenic-made radiation. It doesn't have a single redeeming quality to it, not a single one. CBC on 3 Mile Island report of enormous increases in cancer, infant mortality rates doubled, birds disappeared, mutations observed, infant rates doubled. You know, when they came back after running away, which was a big mistake, a lot of their pets were blind or dead from the radioactive fallout. A lot of them just left their windows and door open, right? Doors open, because back in those days, that was normal. And so they came back to a radioactive wasteland in their home, included all their furniture, their carpets, their kitchens, their living rooms. A lot of those places are still incredibly radioactive today. The radiation never goes away. Effects of chronic restraint-induced stress and radiation-induced. Like, they know more about radiation than they do about the natural elements from the solar system. They've studied it they've used it on several billion people and called it radiation therapy, and it killed every single one of them. It shortened every one of their lives to the ones that had an immune system. A lot of them didn't even have cancer in the first place. There was there was one year, I can't remember what year it was, 2006 or 2010 or something. It was 10 million women, extra women, that had their breast removed because of breast cancer that never actually had breast cancer. It was just an easy surgery, and the surgeons made a lot of money. There was a big incentive because it was a short surgery, and they were making a killing off it, and they just went for it. The industry has corrupted everything on the planet. U.S. universities studied 23% higher incidences of childhood leukemia within 16 kilometers of a nuclear facility. It ain't just children that get sick. tumor radiation biology. Like, they know everything about it. Evidence linking nuclear plants to ill health increasingly compelling. Clear something is going on, says a professor. UK government blames unidentified virus for childhood leukemia rise. You know, within 15 miles of a nuclear meltdown in the United Kingdom at the Windscale, now known as Sellafield, in Crumbia, there's children were having leukemia clusters, 10, 20, 30, and they were blaming it on the flu. Studies were coming out saying it was linked to the flu was causing leukemia, but that it was the nuclear meltdown just a few miles away that had poisoned all of their water, their air. They just don't care. The industry does not care. It can only exist as long as you don't understand these nuances, these details, these minutiae of the minutiae. Mitigation of radiation. After alpha particle irradiation of kidneys. You see the people in the studies? You got MDs and PhDs and MBBSs. And so every single radiation therapy session is an experiment. Right? Every dose of chemo radiation is different. No two radiation therapies are like terracotta soldiers. No two radiation therapies are the same. It's 100% an experiment. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms, as far as we can see, when they can't contain the radioactive fallout from the fuel pools? Do you think it's a coincidence? Do you think it's just like a funny coincidence that this has happened? Excuse me. Got a frog in the throat, frog in the throat. After working in affected areas, 4 workers have died, victims of leukemia or heart attacks. I mean, the death rates will give some people the creeps. Just let me bring up a couple of those for the... I know, like, these shows are grueling. We're trying to make the world a better place by having a conversation, which of course is illegal. Only they're allowed to have a conversation. We're not allowed to have a conversation. So extreme increases in mortality. This is a single month. There was an extra 12,700 people died of heart attacks alone after Fukushima in a single month. 2012 was a terrible year for reality, and thank God that year is gone, the nuclear industry likes to say. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Because that's the quickest way to poison everybody on the bloody planet. Why is it situated by fresh water? That's the next best way you can poison all the farms. It's absurd that all the national laboratories are in the biggest aquifers in that part of their countries. It's absurd that Hanford dumped 450 billion gallons, which is equal to an aquarium. This is dehydrated stuff, of fuel that's splitting atoms into the soil during the Manhattan Project, when there was no rules. It's war time. We can do whatever we want. We're the nuclear industry. Nothing's changed since then, by the way. They have so much power from the Secrecy Act back then. They never gave up that gig, right? How many people think that I'm full of shit, or that I'm not who I say I am, or that I don't care, or that I'm just doing this, or that I'm just some friggin' weirdo? How many people honestly think that somebody who sits here 4 or 5 days a week, puts together these presentations, and provides as much information as anybody ever did or ever will, I bet. It's going to be pretty hard to provide more evidence than I do. I would imagine I've produced more documentation than anybody on the planet. And I'm public. My number is always out there. My face is always there. I don't hide away from anybody. But I have so many people smearing me from the different public relation firms. I have the crazies out there. I'm very high profile on top of that, right? I've been under siege forever. But yet, I live a very humble life, believe it or not. I had to do welding under the truck today. I can't afford to do it myself, pay someone else to do it. And because we're dipping now into the extra freezing temperatures, I had to start, whether I like it or not, I had to get out and make things happen today because the weather's about to go nuts here for snow and everything, and freezing weather. I was out this morning on my back in freezing temperatures, not liking a second of it, welding up pieces on the front end of my vehicle so I can make it through the winter. And I've done a bunch of things getting ready for the winter type mode right now, right? I got more to do tomorrow, more to do the next day, and hopefully I'll be through the bulk of it. And I got to improvise everything all the time. I've been very fortunate up in keeping this operation even moving forward today, right? It's such a humbling thing, what I do, and when people help me in that. And so my focus is, because I'm limited, I can't do the field studies that I like to do, et cetera, is try to do an educational program, try to keep it very informative. I know this is, people are not aware of this issue, or they'll be trying to learn this information. And if you go out and you're going to end up, unfortunately, at the propaganda machines. They're everywhere. They're everywhere, and there's so many of them. I used to come out and denounce them on a regular basis, but you can't keep up with it. You can't cover a 24-hour cycle of lies and propaganda. You can't keep up with that news cycle in 24 hours. And that's what we like to do here sometimes, is try to challenge the 24-hour news cycle. It's a brutal reality that there's 1,000 public relation firms out there for the nuclear industry. Greenpeace is pro-nuclear. It's disguised as anti-nuclear. They're controlled opposition. They blocked me on all their sites when I asked them to share that picture I showed you earlier of 4 journalists claiming they're on top of Reactor 4. And they, Greenpeace Canada, Greenpeace USA, Greenpeace UK, Greenpeace New Zealand, Greenpeace Australia, etc., all blocked me when I contacted their Twitter accounts. Greatly increasing chances of leukemias, organ damage, cancers, when adding ingestions of radionuclides. And I know that I'm a bit of a colorful commentator, to say the least sometimes. You would be too if you understood the enormity of what we're dealing with, the horror of the reality of what we're dealing with. And just keeping this whole operation moving forward it'll make you insane. If it doesn't make you insane, I don't know what the hell does. See, the nuclear power plant built their nuclear power plant in farmlands so it will suck up the radiation and keep the local area numbers a lot lower than they would be without the farms. Well, without the farms, these would be brutal nuclear wastelands. It'd be brutal nuclear wastelands. And what's the best way to poison people far away? Where you grow food around these disease factories. The only way you can describe a nuclear plant is a disease factory. It wasn't not just allegations, it was proof of pet deaths after radiation exposure. It was supported by top universities about 3 Mile Island. But the pets, a lot of the pets were blind from the radioactive fallout. Most people don't appreciate that. Why is every nuclear power plant, except for a few, surrounded by farms? Because it's evil to the core. It's not an accident and it's not a coincidence. It's evil to the core. And it actually seeks out a way to be more evil from what we're seeing. Big change in number of child deaths in Fukushima due to the illnesses. Death from cardiovascular disease has doubled. Cancer and leukemia is also increased. All of it, of course, is denied, officially denied. But this is maddening. When I see nuclear power plants surrounded by farms, that's genocide and overdrive. That's just nothing but contempt, right? Japan, incredibly rare thyroid abnormalities found in 40% of Fukushima children indicates a really high dose of radiation, higher than that Chernobyl. Higher than that Chernobyl, I suppose it is. Is that Monticello? I can't remember. On the Mississippi? They look so similar, a lot of these places, don't they? And all that, like, plants are hemorrhaging radiation into the river. They're hemorrhaging radiation into the air, into the entire ecosystem. My depiction, right, my so-called depiction of the radioactive fallout is nowhere near justice. If you were there and you could see the radioactive fallout, you would literally, you'd be blind. You couldn't see anything. 3 police died. There was actually 300 police officers died. I can't remember. Was that by 2014, 2015 from kidney failure? They were guarding the abandoned communities and cities. Because, it's like a banana, so you had to abandon the communities in the cities. Excuse me. Well, why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Because the industry is evil and they can't contain the radiation. And that's why families within 100 square miles who have anybody sick in their family should immediately start suing the nuclear industry because of the radioactive fallout causes heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia, for instance. It compromises your immune system and makes you more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign. Staggering number of cancers, illnesses, and birth defects linked to nuclear waste. Over 700 cases found in only 4 square miles. That's Hanford. 700 cases in 4 square miles. Because it's like a banana, right? Clearly. It's so insane to see a nuclear power plant and then always the farms, right? U.S. sailors who were denied any kind of compensation, who were within 1 kilometer of Fukushima rescuing people swept out to sea from the tsunami. Our digital watches stopped working when offshore Fukushima. We were laughing at first, and then they realized that Operation Tamagotchi, I think it was around 30 U.S. ships eventually were there. The USS Ronald Reagan, they have grinded the deck and all the surface layers with grinders trying to get rid of the radioactive fallout signals from their ship. But unfortunately, the air ducts and everything is radioactive too. These are genocide machines. That's why nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms, because they're evil and they can't contain the radiation. How do you get that evil? How does that actually work, I wonder? What were they thinking back in the day? Well, if we put it in farmland, you won't find such a big dose locally. And the United Nations is like, excellent. The United Nations took 4 studies, one by Miles Allen, was a net zero study, another one by Wallace Brocker, which was a global warming study, and James Hansen, which was a climate change study, and Carbon Footprint, which was a public relations stunt by BP Oil. They took those 4 papers, those 4 fake papers, and then used that to bludgeon humanity with now ever since. That's who wrote those studies. Now, United Nations never come up with this. This was 4 studies that they felt, United Nations felt, could be used to bludgeon humanity and the 8 million species to death with. Whipping to death with those studies. Blame everything on them, nothing on the nuclear industry. It's all because of our tin cans, our pop bottles, and our cardboard. Japan journalist, plutonium escaped Fukushima reactors as gas. We're talking somewhere between 50,000 and a quarter million pounds of plutonium got out. Can't be detected with Geiger counters. You can't contain the emissions from the fuel pools. So every isotope you're producing is being released from the fuel pools every day, all day, every minute of every 1,440 minutes a day up tall, skinny stacks. From 1,000 fuel pools worldwide doing the same thing. Eventually that will exterminate the planet. But a few events like Fukushima will help along the way. Situation in Fukushima is beyond imagination. Young and old people dying from heart attacks. Young women die of leukemia. This is Sellafield. It used to be known as Windscale. There's 1,000 buildings there. They reprocess all the fuel for United Kingdom and for other countries. They're on the Atlantic Ocean. They had a meltdown in 1959 or 57. And currently, today, there's 8 million liters from the number 4 reactor at Windscale, which is now known as Sellafield, hemorrhaging into the Atlantic Ocean. This site, surrounded by farms as far as you can see. So the whole story is absurd. Cancer found in 40 children. When I was young, the idea of a child having cancer was considered 1 in a million, maybe. Now it's 1 on every street or 10 on every street. We believe it's related to the nuclear disaster. Why is nuclear power plants surrounded by radiation? Outbreak of cancer is now underway in Fukushima children. Clear evidence of an epidemic. All of Japan is still being exposed to nuclear. Well, all of Canada, the United States, North America, all the continents, every species on the planet. It will be disastrous if we have to conclude there's an actual increase in. And so when you talk about thyroid cancer, this is absurd to suggest that thyroid cancer. There was 865,000 cancers in the first year, for goodness sakes. This is 2014. But like they've studied every facet of radioactive fallout. There's nothing they haven't studied. So why would you grow food around a nuclear plant knowing through all of these studies how incredibly brutal Fukushima radiation is killing children, heart problems, leukemias, thyroids. So a thyroid, you're producing the hormones for the functions of their bodies and developing bodies. So there's endless diseases that'll manifest from that. And could be many years before they manifest. On top of that, they're very latent a lot of the times. We need to admit many people are dying, but we're not allowed to say that. The acute effects of ultraviolet radiation on blood. They've studied everything about every kind of radiation. And radiation is not homeostasis. It's not healthy for you. Bystander effects of ionizing radiation. 5,000 nuke plant workers. These were homeless and destitute victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language. Suffering internal radiation exposure. I know what you're saying. You're saying, Dana, they had paper suits on. They're going to be okay. Well, you're wrong. Paper suits are literally, if you're at a nuclear plant, someone gives you a paper suit and you don't turn around and run away, you're a good slave. You're a very obedient slave. Look at the radioactive fallout. It's just nothing compared to the reality of what's coming out of these buildings every minute. Top Japan official on alarming issues of recently discovered radioactive hotspots in Tokyo and other areas far from Fukushima. Radiation-induced erectile dysfunction, our favorite. Look at all the people in that study. They came out of the woodwork for that one. Why are nuclear power plants surrounded by farms? Because that's the best way to get rid of the radiation. And the bonus is their stocks go up in the pharmaceutical shares. Major Japan paper report on detection of iodine-131 in Tokyo, read criticality. The poison never stops poisoning. Even Churn is built right in prime farmland. They produce a lot of radiation too, man. Holy shit, eh? Tweets from Japan, when we wash their hair, it comes off in clumps. It's scary. It's just scary. That's a nurse. Increasing numbers of patients. Unexplained decreases in white blood cells. Well, you killed all their white blood cell production. Right? You destroyed their spleen. You destroyed the ability in the joints to produce it, I guess. Effects of acute gamma radiation, reproductive ability of earthworms. They know. They have no illusions. They study radiation like most of us can't even perceive. People living 170 miles from Fukushima shows a dangerous high radiation levels. Dangerous high radiation levels. Well, the reality of it is, if you looked at people within 100 miles of a nuclear plant, you start looking at the difference between 100 miles around a nuclear plant and 100 miles around a gas, oil, and coal plant. You're going to find within 100 miles of a nuclear plant, you should be looking at heart problems and liver problems and lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, and thyroid, and adrenaline, and Alzheimer's, dementia, and autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, and schizophrenia. Airline makes an emergency landing in the Midwest. 4 radioactive passengers were held in a sterile room because there was too radioactive. The radiation exposure of fish in the period of the Tetra River peak contamination. It's an unusual story, the Tetra River, this former Soviet Union. They were dumping the waste. They had prisoners were used to dump the waste into the Tetra River, which runs all, 500 miles down to the ocean. And I think it was 7,500 little communities were abandoned eventually along the Tetra River, which, like you say, runs 500 miles. And these little communities could be 5, 10, 15, 20 houses. The radiation exposure of fish in a period of the Tetra River peak contamination. If you've done a study on the radioactive contamination of those trees, say, in the middle there, you'll be blown away how brutal it's going to be. And the problem with radioactive fallout is its effects upon your health are nasty. They know, right, that you shouldn't grow food there. They have no illusions about it. These plants are built in prime farmland, yet they know the difference. They know that food is going to suck up the radiation and poison the people. Like it doesn't. You don't have to eat the food to be poisoned because your water is poisoned, your air is poisoned, everything you're touching is being poisoned. Or you go in the morning, you open your car up so innocent, and you're being poisoned by that, and you can't perceive it, right? Nuclear fallout will engulf Taiwan. So it's not just people should stay home and take off their clothes, which means throw it away, and then shower over and over and over and over all day to try to get the radiation dislodged from your body because it's electrically charged. But once it's there forever. Will engulf the island of Taiwan for at least 2 days. Now, see, the reality of it is, it never goes away. So if it showed up in absurd numbers. They're going to downplay it. But it contaminated everything, and therefore, it's not like a plume that's coming through. The plume covers the whole planet. They were just panicking, so they came up with that one. But right away, all your food is sucking up that radiation. They know that. They have the studies of it, right? They have no illusions about how poisonous it is. It's the strangest industry you'll ever see, where it looks for prime farmland to build its nuclear disease factories to poison people. What's more bizarre than that, really? Yeah. Pneumonia cases surged in Japan to Hokkaido region. Frequency of pneumonia also increased after Chernobyl. Obesity rates doubled in Japan in the first year. That's a marker of radioactive brain damage when you see that happening after a nuclear accident. So you have all these studies quantifying that they know the difference, but yet they continue to do the worst possible thing they can do, and with the only outcome of poisoning everybody on the planet. What do you think is really going on? How much longer are we going to live in denial? The 3,000 evacuees rushed to a hospital by ambulances. So you've seen typhoons and cyclones and hurricanes where they evacuate millions, right? You've never seen, now in Japan it was only 400,000 or so. And so why would 3,000 people have to be rushed to the hospital for evacuation when we've seen 10, 15 million at a time evacuate for typhoons, cyclones, and hurricanes, and you still didn't see these attributes? Because radioactive fallout is a terrible, terrible thing. And Japan was the ultimate in radioactive fallout. Japan produced more radioactive fallout than anything in history, and most of it combined. Japan was an event. The top of each of the reactor buildings was around 8 reactor cores. Serious abnormalities found in evacuees. Doctors shocked by quick onset of suspected thyroid cancers. Such rapid growth was impossible in children before 3/11. Post-Fukushima, it's normal. It's just normal. Well, they know it. They're not naive. They're not gullible. They've studied it way more than the natural elements from our solar system. And they know that there's nobody or no species on the planet with an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. And they know that radiation attacks everything with replicating cells. And they're producing so much now worldwide because we got 80 years of production. And everything that's in fuel pools, which is the majority of the stuff on the planet, is splitting atoms directly into the environment. I just wish the world would start heading in the right direction of dealing with this. 40% of Fukushima visitors showed internal exposures to radiation, says the hospital. How could you not? How could the other 60% not? How does that work? They produced enough studies, they know the difference. They're not naive, they're not gullible, they're a criminal. It's a criminal, a vicious criminal organization. Even a low dose will cause damage. And so when you're radiating the food, and we know the food is sucking up the radiation, is that not murder? Is that not a genocide? And releasing it in the fuel pools is an omnicide. You're attacking all the species because you can't predict where it's going to go. You can't. You do know it will poison everything it comes in proximity to. Everything. Excuse me. I have so much evidence. I don't need to show you any more than I already showed you, I'm pretty sure, but I have so much evidence that they know what they're doing. They're not naive. They know the outcome. They've studied every facet of radiation, so they know what the plumes covering their planet are doing, are going to do. They predicted it, everything. I mean, you know, in 2003, plutonium from Sellafield in all children's teeth, just from Sellafield. And plutonium, of course, is 3 tumors. Most people will die from the bone tumor, but there's liver tumor and lung tumors. They know everything about radiation. Like, it's absurd when you see this many people on a study. This is nothing. A lot of studies are way worse than that. You know, they know what they're doing is evil. There's zero possibility they don't know the difference. This was the plutonium model based on TEPCO's numbers, which excluded all the emissions from reactor 3 and 4, for instance, buildings and fuel pools. So Neptunium-239 decays to plutonium-239 in 2.5 days. So this is insanity. After 25 days, all the neptunium has decayed to plutonium-239. Plutonium, 144 beagle dogs is an example I use all the time. This is a government study, the French, United States Navy, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, New Mexico. Bone tumors, 93 dogs were the most common cause of death of the 144 dogs. Tumors of the lung, skeleton, liver occurred beginning about 3 years later. Lung tumors, liver tumors, all the dogs died. They say similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans exposed, but it was discovered that the human kidneys are 50 times less efficient than animal kidneys at removing plutonium. So the reality of it was all the dogs died, and they were 50 times more efficient at removing plutonium than the humans are. But the biggest byproduct wasn't plutonium. Forget the fact that it's alpha, which is the bone seeker, is curium isotopes. Just think about the curium isotopes. This is the biggest byproduct, not cesium, not iodines. And curium isotopes, you need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And they're the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod, not cesium, not americium, not neptunium, not strontium. And they're prolific isotopes, by the way. They're prolific, and they're catastrophic to everything with replicating cells. Cancer epidemic underway. Yeah, 865,000 extra cancers acknowledged in the first year. Excess cancers, extra cancers. Cancer is just one of the many illnesses and diseases and autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. Excuse me. Sellafield, England. I know I just seen Kevin there a few minutes ago. I meant to give him a quick shout and see if we get any updates. Might as well take that opportunity where we're at it. If you're listening, Kevin, I'm going to call you in about a minute when I sets up everything here. And I meant to call him last week and I didn't do it. I forgot. I got to try to learn to at least get him on the show once a week and find out what he's up to. Let's see if we can get his, response on the poll tonight. Should people within 100 miles of a nuclear plant, if they have the capabilities, sue the nuclear industry for poisoning them from the fuel pools? Let's give him a call. Let's get him on the line here for something to do. Because I'm literally running out of energy here tonight. Oh, we got a ring-a-ding-a-dingy. Make sure the volume's up. Are you out there? Kevin, can you hear me? Uh-oh. He's probably watching the show on his phone or something. Hey, Kevin, it's Dana. Have I got you at a bad time?
No. Give me just
Yeah.
Just stay on the line. I'm just dropping off the kids.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, take your time. Just let me know when you're. Let me know when you're ready.
I
And
can talk and drive. I got a new phone system on the car.
okay, well, go ahead.
Yeah, so
Is there anything you're up
we
to?
got some good news today.
Okay, go ahead, buddy. Yeah,
We got some good news today.
Roger that. Go ahead.
Belgium turned off one of the other reactors today.
Who did?
Belgium. So they're
Oh.
down to 2. They had 8. They turned the 6th one off today. Shut it down. Hardly got any media coverage. In fact, they got none.
I started off.
Waiting, you know.
I started off with nuclear Belgium for an opening song here tonight.
Yeah. You know it. I know it, but nobody else knows it.
No, that's right. I'm glad you brought it up. That's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
another one that's not poisoning millions of people.
yeah, I mean, it's granted there's still toxic and poison, but
It's a start. It's a
they're
start.
done. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, no kidding. I love hearing it.
I mean, so that, according to AI, I've been working on this. That's number 270 that's been shut down post Fukushima. So when they tell us that there's still 410, they're full of shit. I mean, I've never seen such propaganda.
Yes, you have.
I was at the university this morning, and I was talking to a bill biologist. Me and him was arguing, and I'm like, dude, he was trying to tell me that they've restarted nuclear reactors. I said, where? Never in the history of the United States have they ever restarted a shut-down reactor, and I don't know any in the world. He says, oh, Fukushima, Japan. I said, no, that's bullshit. Every time they say they've restarted them, so then, what? What about that? All right. Thanks, Leroy. Hold on, you coming home? Yeah. All right. Light up too. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'll just letting you. You're letting the kids out.
I'm
Obviously.
dropping off the kids.
Yeah,
I'm raising my 14-year-old grandson now.
it's great stuff, Kevin.
Oh,
Bless your heart, buddy.
Oh, wow. It's a nightmare, to be honest with you.
I can't imagine.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
Giving his fucking friends. But see, I got thrown into it by default. He lost his dad in May.
Yeah, that's how.
Ugly situation might happen. So, but anyway, long story short. But anyway.
Yeah, keep going,
So-
buddy. Yeah. So Belgium.
So,
Go ahead.
We're getting pummeled by the propaganda machines and all their money.
Oh my goodness, shocking.
reality-
Actually.
Oh, it's unbelievable. But the reality is, we're kicking their ass. And the truth, which they put no reactors on. And they keep shutting down. So where's this fucking renaissance?
They had to. I showed it there a few shows back. I dug up the numbers. Worldwide, there was 3,350 gigawatts every day, right? Each minute of energy worldwide. Nuclear in 1995 had the same gigawatts as they do today. Literally the exact same, give or take a gigawatt. So there is no nuclear renaissance. Well,
Shit.
and their numbers for current reactors were based on ones that were being built, or are going to be built. So I don't know what the real numbers is. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, the IAEA, in reality, I've been doing some work on that. They count reactors if they've been cold shut down for 20 years.
Yeah, I know.
So you go look at their numbers, it's full of shit. Now, in March of 2011, there was 410 active nuclear reactors on the planet. 410. And that was a pretty accurate number. So, and when Fukushima happened, my estimate right now, there's about 178 online. So how's that resonant? And then when you go to somebody, they'll say, oh, well, look at all they put on China. I'm like, you're full of shit. That's all lies. You can't get real numbers out of China.
So that would explain why we're seeing so much propaganda alleging a nuclear renaissance. That's why we see the big push to try to, what happened in the last 3 years was almost 200 or 2,000 gigawatts of solar came online, which is over half of the entire planet's gigawatt usage every day. So by the end of this year, it's going to be close to 2,000. And there's only 3,350 gigawatts every day, every minute being used. Well, renewable is in a position almost now just to curb stomp all the industries.
It already is.
And
so it's like here.
Yeah, go ahead, right.
In Utah, this nuclear hub bill, is funded by the coal industry. Up the sun shines 320 days a year, and solar's just killing it, but we're still using fucking dirty coal, and Warren Buffett and Bill Gates own the coal plants. And so the whole thing, this nuclear renaissance, is to suck out all the money and the energy away from solar to this fairy tale. And that's what they're doing all over the United States. They're selling, and these guys are getting rich. By the way, did you see NewScale? Stock crashed from 50 clear down to 18 this month.
We talked about that for the last couple of months. That was coming.
So, but this...
They don't have a product, right? Go ahead.
The Financial Times finally come out with an article talking about how all these Department of Energy cronies and Trump's friends and Biden's friends are getting rich on this nuclear renaissance fairy tale. And that Sam Altman raised $20 billion on a company that has absolutely no and has no product.
Doesn't have an asset.
People are trading on the market and they're getting rich.
That was the hype, right? The hype machine.
It's still hyping.
Yep.
And it's all funded by the government, which is all, and it's illegal as fuck. Yep. It's illegal.
It's a Ponzi scheme, 100% Ponzi scheme, yeah. They don't, folks, they don't have a product. So what Kevin's telling you is as clear as daylight, right?
SMRs. It's a fucking fairy tale.
No, and the only one they're building is in Canada. It's 240 feet tall. It's like, holy shit, skyscraper.
Well, I talked to Governor Cox here down there last evening, having a cordial argument, and I'm like, dude, I got 37 billion reasons you'll never build a large nuclear reactor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, Australia
that's the only reactor we put on cost.
The one they're building in
$37 billion for a nuclear reactor.
The one they're building in the UK is over 48 billion US now. They're far from finished. It's full of rats. I mean, it's full of rats all through the insulation, electronics. It's infested, the whole site, for quite a few years. We've been talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Is that even going to work? Will that thing actually fire up? Because they bury all these wires. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of miles of wires, right? Buried in tubes and cement. How are you going to fix that? How does that actually work? In a car, you pull out the car harness, right? It's pretty straightforward. A little plug, you plug it all back together. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of miles.
Do me a favor. I got to track down these kids. Call me back in 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, 5 minutes. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, sorry.
No worries. Bye-bye. That's Kevin Blanche. She's back in 5. We just set the timer because otherwise, you know what it's like when I start talking. 2 hours go by. Don't even yawn. I had a rough day today. Holy shit, trying to get everything done. I like to change the oil in the truck before the snow lands, which could be tomorrow. I was going to start getting down to -10, -15. We're hoping, I'm hoping to get out and do some field studies when the snow shows up. I think I'm ready to go. I guess a bunch of equipment showed up we put together the last couple of days, but today I got more equipment that will show up in the next few days. That'll help things. And so it's a long time coming to try to get up and running again. But I think this winter, if we get enough snow to get out and do it, we'll be out doing it. And I know for sure in the summertime, I'm gonna pull off a lot of research this summer. I'm not going to get into details because the industry is paying attention to everything, but we need to get more field studies in. We got 46 million birds missing down there. Oh yeah, I wasn't even sure if I set the timer that time, but we got 4 minutes left. We'll call Kevin back. And so, let me get Kevin out of the way for a minute. When you look at the picture behind me, this is a satellite picture of Windscale, Sellafield, United Kingdom. And as far as you can see is farms. This has been running for 70 years or something. And they produced the plutonium for the nuclear weapons here. And so it's unconscionable, it's absolutely unconscionable that they're surrounded by farms because you can't contain the emissions. And they have the emissions all the way back to the original days, right? Outbreak of cancer is now underway in Fukushima children. Clear evidence of an epidemic. All of Japan is still being exposed to nuclear radiation. And they have studies. They know how this works. They know they're not naive. They're not gullible. They don't have a single excuse. They've studied it. And you see these people, any of these people, if you interviewed them about Fukushima off the record, they would terrify you. And there's millions and millions of these every year doing studies. Millions of these people. And they're doing studies for the nuclear industry. Imagine the carbon footprint of that, for instance, so-called carbon footprint, of the cruelty. A lot of these are animal studies. Growing food right alongside of active nuclear disease factories is crimes against humanity. That's crimes against humanity. It's unconscionable that you do that. And you have the studies that can quantify my assertions, right? They know, many young people in Fukushima or in high school, there was a teacher and a student died on the same night in one school in the nuclear wasteland. And there was another school a few days later close by where 2 students died in one day, just dropped dead. There's a street close by that where 7 people dropped dead in 1 year. And this industry, these people, they know. They don't. It's not. If you ask them off the record, they're going to tell you nuclear, is deadly to everything with replicating cells. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram of cesium-137. So why is it surrounded by farms when you can't contain cesium, uranium, plutonium, americium, or the 1,000 other isotopes? We'll give Kevin a call now in another minute. We'll give him 5 minutes. You better be ready. I'm just kidding you. He'll answer or he won't answer. I'll call him back regardless. Doctors near Tokyo attributes symptoms to radiation exposure. We have begun to see increased nosebleeds, stubborn cases of diarrhea, flu-like symptoms. This is emblematic of radiation contamination and permanent illnesses from it. Current clinical trial testing, combination of, look at the people in these studies. It's absurd how many people participate in these studies, and none of them will speak out and say this is a bad idea. They'll take the money and go do the study and show it's a bad idea, but they will never speak out about it. And those studies will be locked up. Those studies will be locked up behind a paywall to protect them. Rumors are spreading in Japan says leukemia is up 7 times from last year. It was worse than that. In the first year, it was 865,000 extra cancer. Not everybody gets cancer, and not everybody has heart problems, liver problems. We're going to give Kevin a call in about 30 seconds or a minute. Just want to get rid of that timer thingy before. There we go. Oh. Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. Do you want me to call you back? You want me to call you back?
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Perfect.
Hello.
Okay, buddy. There we go. You're back up.
Yeah, so I never seen anything in all my years of the anti-nuclear activist energy. I mean, never have I seen anything even close to this. This propaganda is unbelievable.
Yeah.
and it's everywhere. I mean, it's overwhelming.
It's vicious.
Yeah.
They're vicious.
I mean,
Like
it reminds me, it's so crazy that what they're trying to do, I mean, just looting on the way out, I guess. Just stealing money from the government, the taxpayers so radically.
I was just showing a bunch of studies and the people that were working on the studies, and then all of them got to pay their mortgages and their expenses and their car payments and their children's tuitions and go on exotic trips and vacations. And so there's big money to keep their mouth shut, right? It's a huge incentive, actually. Oh, looks like we lost you, Kevin. I'll call him back here. Looks like we screwed up here. Just hang on, Kevin, but sorry. Well, he's driving, so there we go. We call him again. Because he's driving, he get his signal sometimes.
Sorry about that. I lost
That's okay,
you.
boy. That's fine. No, I was just saying to everybody, you're driving, so you might lose the signal here and there.
No, I'm not driving now. I mean, I just got in, but
Okay.
yeah. So, you know how it is with our phone calls. It's always a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They're out there. They have influence. They have access to drop calls and everything else.
So the thing that bothers me the most about this whole journey, this whole 13 years, is the thing that really bothers me is we were right the whole time.
Yeah.
We did so much great activism, you and I and others, and
Hang on,
we
Kevin.
get nothing
Go ahead.
for it.
Go ahead. I got you.
We get zero for it. I mean,
Yeah.
no credit, no funding. I mean, per se. I mean, it's unbelievable. I thought, well, as the ocean crashes and the real data's out there, then we're going to start to get some traction. And fucking, it's the opposite. I mean, we got less traction than we ever had.
Oh, I'll call him back. Hey, Kevin. He's probably calling me. He'll pick up.
Hello.
Hello, buddy.
Yeah, I'm having phone difficulty. Get the hookup behind it. Behind it.
What's going on?
A Hellcat? Oh, no. You got a Hellcat? So, got it. Oh, yeah. I'm on the phone, Allie. So, yeah.
Sorry, Kevin. Go ahead, buddy. I don't know. I guess we might have to. I think that was. I'll try one more time, see if we can get through to him, and then we'll just move on because we're heading up to 1 hour and 40 minutes. That happens. Not very often we get cut off this much. I'll call Kevin back here. There we go. We'll get him this. Maybe we'll get through this time. Won't be for lack of trying. It's all good. Can't win them every time, right? Hey, buddy, any better?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to deal with these kids and the same thing. I mean, I can walk a few some. But, yeah.
It's okay.
So the whole thing that bothers me the most is, hell, you were in a wheelchair. I was in critical condition with AML leukemia. I mean, ready to die. And yet they set up all these schemes.
We were both in, for folks who don't know the difference, me and Kevin were both in the hospital at the same time with heart attacks. That was a crazy time. That was crazy. I had 7 stints, and you had open heart surgery. You got a pacemaker.
Oh, I almost died. I don't know how I didn't die on that one.
I mean,
But I've got a pacemaker now. But you go even further back when I was full of AML leukemia.
yeah, what they done to you then?
2011.
That was disgusting, eh?
Well, and teams of trolls. Website. I mean, think about it. There were
It was-
dozens and dozens
Oh yeah,
of
no.
Facebook pages, YouTube sites, committed 100% with our names on it to slanderous attack.
Still
And you
going,
were in a
still
wheelchair
going.
then.
Yeah, still going strong.
Well, what about those? Those are felonies.
Yeah.
Those are felonies in Canada. They're felonies in the United States. Yet those fuckers can do anything they want to us. Anything.
It's not
And there's no
illegal to be a
consequence.
scumbag, apparently. Yeah.
Well, no, it's illegal. It's illegal to slander and go after a person.
Well, it's
with
illegal,
AML
but
leukemia.
they have
It's illegal in every state.
they have immunity, and they've never been prosecuted. I mean, they took me and gave me gag orders, but they didn't prosecute the demons that were attacking us.
Well, but I'm not talking about the slander. I mean, I got a central line hanging out of my government. I've talked to the Attorney General here about it. I got that. He says, yeah, that's against the law.
Yeah.
Wait, they won't do anything? And then they slandered us so radically that it cut off any funding per se. I mean, I look back on
Right.
it,
It was
and we
effective.
were right every word we said.
We never lied, ever. We
No.
were 100% honest 100% of the time.
And look at all the hard work. You know, you Google IAIs, Kevin Blash, the marine biologist, and it says that, you know, spill out a bunch of stuff, but it says I don't use my own work. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? You know how hard that typo work was I did for all those years at one time? I don't even live in California.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
they
not
had
my own work.
they
Please.
had one of the blurbs they had about me out there was I didn't pre-script my videos. I didn't I was a bad person because I didn't pre-script it. Like you
Well, the
need
bottom
a
line
lot
is,
of people to help
think about
you.
all the work. Think about all the work
That's
that
right.
got done.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
I mean, we're talking some fucking... I tell people I did the work of a fucking 1,000 biologists. And so,
like
you know, I was talking with a guy the other day at the university, same dude. And
yeah,
I'm like, we're talking about marine biology, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who's the most famous marine biologist in the United States in history? Well, it was Doc Ricketts. I said, Doc Ricketts never went to fucking college. I've got degrees. I've got credentials. Show me his work. I mean, the great tide pool of Monterey is named after him.
yeah.
But fuck us. I mean, they don't appreciate it. And there's our work all transparent on YouTube. You're on the boat up there. I'm walking. There's our work right there for God and everybody to see
Yeah.
and document our field observation. You fuck us?
No, we told people we showed them where we were to. I provided GPSs actually of every spot I went. I was very open. I was an idiot because, you know, I felt that was necessary, but nobody was going to repeat that. No one's going to go try to disprove the facts that we showed because that would make them look like the evil monsters they really are. Like, it's
Well, the
absurd.
thing is,
It's absurd. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
What bothers me the most is we did the work. We were transparent. But, I mean, you hypothesize the knowledge is a real PhD, and then you put your work out there. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
But you have to do the field work. I'm in critical condition. And we were right. We took a lot of risk in those early days about the tide pools wiping out, about the mirrors, about the birds, about the fucking heat dome, all of it. And it's all 2011. I mean, it's the greatest outlier in human history. And we have 14 years of data now to back it up. So how are they still fucking denying it? It blows my mind. It really,
It's a lot of them.
I mean,
There's a lot of them. They're everywhere. They've taken your
well,
universities.
the fact is,
prisoner.
the outlier lays there. The fact is, the common year fucking wiped out. We have 14 years of data now. You can run regressionary marks.
There's no
We know
denying.
it's factually unarguable.
There's no denying.
The
I done
outlier,
it.
the great event happened in 2011. The great catastrophe started in 2011 in the Pacific Ocean and moved forward. It's unarguable data. It's there, but they deny it.
Yeah, did you see the beginning of my show last night by chance? With the emaciated
Yeah.
whales, the four emaciated whales from
Look,
2025.
how much
That was
work
absurd.
have I done on whales over the years?
I mean,
My God,
but
I've done so much fucking work on whales over the years. It's unbelievable.
Kevin, those four
Yeah,
whales were so emaciated. I've never seen nothing like it. Instead of weighing 88,000 pounds, they weighed around 5,000. And they were alive when they came
Here's
ashore.
something.
That was absurd.
Get this.
Heartbreaking.
Get
Go
this,
ahead.
David.
Go ahead.
Today,
Yeah.
sperm whale washes up dead on private beach in Rhode Island.
The
And it's being
Woods
reported.
Hole.
What a coincidence.
Woods Hole.
The Wood Hole.
I read that just
Please,
before I went live, actually.
Okay, so the Wood Holes person, he showed you what a fraud Wood Holes is. So Wood Holes is committee chair. It was his private beach.
Yeah.
Guess who he is? He's a hedge fund guy.
That's
He's
right.
a private equity guy.
That's right.
So how the fuck's he an environmentalist? And people say, oh,
He's not. He's the farthest thing. Woods Hole has been taken over by a bunch of monsters. There was good intentions for the original foundation.
Can't be fuckers. I'm the guy that leaked out the original study. Then they were in the ocean in 2011. I leaked that out there, and they were coming up with 1,000 times the background levels of season 137 in the water column in 2011. I'm the one that leaked it. That was the Wood Holes KLK study. They raised so much money and hid that. That study tells you exactly. It says right in the study, the radioisotopes from the meltdowns of Fukushima are already into the biosphere, and that was in June of 2011. 1,000 times the background levels. 1,000. And here's Wood Holes does nothing. Just sits there like, oh, look at me, give me some more money.
Oh, they're disgusting, boy. That group.
They're
They're the biggest prestigious institution on the planet for the ocean research, but they're full of the degenerate pro-nuclear community. They're totally seeded with it, right?
You know, they're hooked with MIT. MIT and Woods Holes are connected at the fucking hip. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Head of the snake.
MIT is brutal.
You know who went to MIT?
Who?
One of their main guys. Bibi Netanyahu. There you have it.
Wow, is
That's
that
where
right?
he went to college.
PB did.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you have to say?
A Goldfish or whatever his original name was. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
he went to MIT. And now it's even coming up, because I know Noam Chomsky personally. Now it's coming up fucking Noam Chomsky's an Epstein. Which I knew that. I was at the Helen Keller Symposium in 2015 in New York. He had this really young girl with him. And I'm like, oh, is this your daughter or your granddaughter? And he kind of just looked at me. And me and him, we sat together. Fucking hands up being a fucking fraud.
That was at the Holocaust Symposium, was it?
Oh, yeah, well, she wouldn't let me use the F word.
That's what I was going to say. You weren't allowed to
She
say
told me I couldn't speak
Fukushima.
at Fukushima, so she was hung over on Sunday, didn't show up to her own symposium on time. So Millie, who's from Canada, who runs her foundation, says, Kevin, Harry, you get up before she gets here. And I got up and went on my... Noam Chomsky was there. Democracy Now! Amy Goodman was there. A lot of Oh, I know what to tell you, too. You know, what's his name? That claimed to be the activist that was there that day. He dropped dead this year. He's dead. And then those two assholes from San Francisco, that man and woman, to have that Fukushima fan thing and think they're the filmmakers that made the documentary SOS on San Onofre. That fucker dropped dead 3 days ago.
Wow.
So a lot of these fake activists have been dropping like flies.
They bought into their own propaganda. They believed their own bullshit propaganda.
Well, you make a documentary about the shutdown at San Onofre, and you don't put Kevin Blanch in it. That's like making a documentary on basketball, not putting Michael Jordan in it.
How many times do you think you've been to San Onofre, Kevin? Protesting, so to speak.
1,000.
That's what I was going to say.
Since I was a kid. And it would have never shut down. San Onofre would have never shut down if it wasn't me for cancer. I was the one leaking to Kamala Harris's office when she was the Attorney General there, all the goods on her. Those guys were feeding it to me, and I was feeding it to her. They didn't want to go to jail. It never shuts down without me.
The whole industry, we see is not just obviously those. We see this perpetual corruption, the worst types around the nuclear industry. Every facet of it too. It's just pure corruption.
You know
it can't exist without
all
it.
these years,
Go ahead.
I come to this conclusion after all these years.
Sure.
You know, there were a bunch of Zionist pieces of shit in, you know, when they dropped the bombs on Japan, which they never should have done.
Yeah.
Their whole agenda is to poison the planet. That's what the nuclear industry is about. They're not about energy.
No.
They're about looting money, but they want to poison us. And that's what they've done.
I think they
That's the
succeeded beyond their wildest imaginations, dreams. It's what they done to us now is just, it's unconscionable, eh?
disgusting.
It's
They
unconscionable.
killed my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, murdered my father, outright murdered my father.
Yeah,
and then I did it, and they tried to murder me? Fuck. I mean, I was a millionaire when I got fucking cancer. Fuck, I had $1 million of Tesla and Apple stock in 2011. Do the math. What they did to me, totaled my life, tried to fucking murder me, and they get away with it? That's what I tell the governor here. I'm like, what the fuck? You can do anything you want to me? Why don't you just kill me? What am I, Karen Silkwood now? You know, it's outrageous.
If anything at all, you're unbelievably persistent. Even at this since you were a child, for God's sakes.
I've been at this my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, since day one.
That's pretty impressive,
I was
man.
born fucking this way.
Yep.
Well, my dad nuked to death. I was a born mutant from birth.
Yep.
I have a twin sister, you know, and she got all kinds of issues too when we was little. I knew what it was from a very young age. I knew what they I mean, when they march your own drafted Marines into the fucking
Nuclear
Nevada test site
explosion.
and they nuke them.
That's crazy. What they done to your dad is
My
absurd.
dad died in the prime of his life
Yeah. Which is absurd, isn't it? Yeah.
from leukemia.
When
You know,
leukemia
healthy
really
folks
didn't
don't-
even exist, except for the nuclear industry.
There was 40,000 of those guys. They all died of leukemia. Fucking all of them. And so when they say the data's not there, they're full of shit.
Yeah, the industry
You know, all the data is there.
crazy, eh? The industry is so crazy.
So-
Go ahead, Kevin.
But they're evil. They're so evil, it's unbelievable. And then the whole Epstein call, they're the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell everybody, look, you got Bill Sickening Gates, and Utah's bound to that freak. You got Sam Altman. You got the same Elon Musk. All these guys are pro-nukers from hell. Jeff Bezos was born at Los Alamos to a teenage mother. His grandfather is the spokesman for the Department of Energy. Used to be called the Department of Atomic. That's his grandpa.
Yeah.
And so it's the same.
Because there was a
cult.
conflict, right, originally. Go ahead.
Well, the Epsteiners and the nuclear industry are the same degenerate fucks. They're all the same people. And their agenda is I've come to the conclusion, their agenda is to kill us all. You know, poison us all. Poison the fucking planet. That's what they're up to.
They're definitely they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams a bit.
Well,
Big
I think
poison
now
everything
they're in
now.
the desperation mode because, like I said, they're all shutting down and solar's just kicking ass. Solar's just taking over everything. And so they're in full-blown desperation. So they're going all out now. I mean, what they're doing to us, what they're doing to the planet, they're all out.
It's panicky, eh?
They're holding
It
back
looks
nothing now.
like panic to me. I don't know, right? 100%.
That's what I think it is, too.
They're panicking because
Yeah,
they're losing, and
Yes. They're done.
they'll
They're
take
done.
they'll take the entire planet with them before they give an inch to people.
Right. That's where we're at. Because they know they're done. They're like in panic on Balco. And so, with our own money, I mean, they got the advanced nuclear bill through last summer. Nobody's even paying attention. You know, only Bernie Sanders and Merkel voted against it. The Senate passed it 88-2, 10 abstained. And then you go talk. I went and talked to my congressman. I talked to my senators face to face, toe to toe. They don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm like, well, why the fuck do you vote for it? Well, so I mean, I said they're killing you too, you stupid fucker. You know, Mia Love died. Remember me and her used to fight? She was our congresswoman here.
Yeah.
Remember we used to argue about Fukushima all the time, me and her. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I hope you don't. Oh, she got brain cancer, died young.
Wow.
I mean, these stupid fuckers are willing to kill themselves.
I say that too quite a lot, right? That they believe their own propaganda at some point. They start. It shows you they weren't that intelligent to begin with. They were just in a position that is ruthless, right? The whole operation is ruthless. They don't have to be particularly smart to be ruthless, to be evil
No.
and poison the planet. Okay, buddy, that's the end of the show.
All right. There you go.
I'm glad we got you on
Well,
for the
thanks,
rest of
Dana.
the conversation. That was awesome, man. Appreciate it. We'll get you next
Yeah,
week for sure.
pretty intense. Well, I've been pissed off all day because I've been arguing with these idiots and fighting with them here in Utah. So
hopefully you aired off a little bit anyway. Got a bit off your chest hopefully tonight. Okay, love you, buddy.
And you know.
God bless you, buddy.
Take care, man.
Yeah. We'll
God bless you.
Talk on the next one. Okay, Kevin.
All right, bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. That's Kevin Blanche, folks. Kevin live in his fine form. Well, he's been screwed over so bad by the industry. He's not going to hold it back anymore. Not going to play any games. Just tell it like it is. That's what he's supposed to do, right? Let me see here. Let me see what we're doing here. So that's the end of the show. Catch everybody, hopefully tomorrow night. We barely got the show in tonight. I was like, oh my God. I'm pretty busted up from today. I'll be okay tomorrow. I got a bunch of work to get done tomorrow. I'm super happy to have the bulk of stuff done out of the way. The hard stuff, right? I said, well, I'll get it done today because tomorrow's going to be rotten. And I'm going to try to change the oil tomorrow. I already picked up a filter. And I have a jug and a half. I think I have enough proper oil. And get that changed before the weather goes nuts. And just, I'm pretty good with the maintenance, but I've been a bit slack this year, kind of run out of energy. Now I'm doing exercise every day. We're in the sauna each day. We're doing red light therapy each day. It's a big difference. And my energy now all of a sudden. I've still got a ways to go, but I see a way forward anyway. So that was Kevin Blanche. Kevin is obsessed like me. We're going to end the show with nuclear exceptionalism. Exceptionalism. That's sound by James Lucen on YouTube. If you like it, go check out his site. You'll find links in the bottom of the description to the best music site, period. That's it. And there's a link right now in the comments section, but that'll disappear for 12 hours after the show is over. So if you're trying to find it, you can't find it, come back after 12, 13 hours and check the beginning of the show comment section. You see a link. That'll be the same site. Thanks for everybody. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. And we'll see you on the next show. Take care now.
They said it was clean, too cheap to meter. Built the dome, then cooked the beaker. Said the rod was safe as sealed in drums, but left them leaking out of Idaho slums. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear's not dumb. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear is fun. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear has won. Hallelujah, nuclear exceptionalism is done. They chase the sun, all fusion proud. Ignore the barrels stacked in clouds. Promise stars in every socket, while curium settled in the market. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear's not dumb. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear is fun. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear has won. Hallelujah, nuclear exceptionalism is done. Chart is clean, while whales rolled up beside the submarine. Blame the algae, blame the rain, but never trace the gamma chain. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear's not dumb. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear is fun. Hallelujah, being anti-nuclear has won. Hallelujah, nuclear exceptionalism. rods are rusting, the record spins. Mama warned them, too many sins. Keep your son, keep your lab coat pride till you fix the way